You got into your car this morning, turned the key, pressed the pedal, and accelerated to 40 miles per hour without using a single muscle. 100,000 years ago, that same trip would have required 2 full days of walking, barefoot, across territory that could kill you, with no roads, no trails, and not a single sign telling you what lay ahead. For almost all of human history, getting anywhere meant risking everything, and you had nothing to take you there except your own 2 feet. Today, you can cross the planet in a day. You can order something from the other side of the world, and it shows up at your door. Movement is so easy now that it has become basically invisible. But for roughly 300,000 years, every single journey a human being ever made happened at walking speed. And that one limitation shaped everything about how we lived, what we ate, whom we married, and how much of the world we ever got to see. So let's start at the beginning, your feet. Humans are the best long-distance walkers on the planet, but definitely not the fastest. A cheetah can reach 70 miles per hour. A horse can sustain 30 miles per hour for miles. You top out at around 15, and only for a few seconds before you run out of breath. Speed was never the point. You can, however, walk 20 miles in a day, sleep, and do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. You can do this for weeks. No other animal on Earth can do that. Your feet have arches that act like springs, and your Achilles tendon stores and releases energy with every step. So, your muscles do not carry the entire load. A ligament running along the back of your neck keeps your head steady while your body moves beneath it, and you have about 2 million sweat glands cooling you down while every other large mammal on the savanna overheats and has to stop. You were not built to be fast. You were built to never stop. In 1978, paleoanthropologist Mary Leakey discovered a trail of footprints at Laetoli, Tanzania. They were preserved in volcanic ash from 3.6 million years ago. 2 individuals, walking upright, side by side. The oldest evidence of bipedalism ever found, and they look almost exactly like yours. For millions of years, that was the only transportation technology humans had. And somehow, it was enough to take us farther than any other species has ever gone. Starting about 70,000 years ago, humans began walking out of Africa, not in a single march. This happened over thousands of years, generation after generation. Small groups, pushing a little farther into territory no human had ever seen. They crossed the Middle East, spread across Asia, reached Europe, walked into Siberia, crossed a land bridge into Alaska, and continued south through the Americas. That is roughly 15,000 miles without knowing the destination even existed. And what is not discussed nearly enough is that they were not walking at random. Archaeologists have found obsidian tools hundreds of miles from the nearest volcanic source and seashells found far inland. Amber traded across entire mountain ranges. These people covered vast distances deliberately to trade, connect with other groups, and find specific resources they knew existed because someone had told them. This was not wandering. This was networking on foot. Walking works brilliantly until something gets in the way. You can cross a desert. You can cross a mountain pass. But a river stops you in your tracks. And rivers were everywhere, cutting across every migration route, every home territory, every trade path. For hundreds of thousands of years, a body of water was essentially a wall. Either you found a shallow crossing, or you turned back. Then, somehow, humans figured out something no other land animal has figured out: how to cross water on purpose. In 2003, archaeologists working on the island of Flores, Indonesia, found stone tools dating back about 800,000 years. The problem is that Flores has never been connected to the mainland. Even during the lowest sea levels of the ice ages, there were always at least 12 miles of open ocean between the island and the nearest land. That means only one thing: someone made the crossing. We do not know what they used. Wood rots. Bamboo decomposes. Whatever they floated on no longer exists. But the tools are there, which means the crossing happened. The first boats were probably barely boats at all: a fallen log, a bundle of reeds tied together. They were not designed. They were discovered. Someone grabbed a floating log to cross a stream and did not drown. That was the breakthrough. But what happened next was deliberate. About 65,000 years ago, humans crossed from Southeast Asia to Australia. That crossing meant navigating at least 60 miles of open ocean. You cannot see Australia from the other side. You cannot accidentally drift there. Someone built something that could float, pointed it toward water whose far side they could not see, and paddled. Think about that for a second. They left solid ground with no idea whether anything lay on the other side. The oldest boat we have ever found is the Pest canoe from the Netherlands. It is about 10,000 years old. It is just a hollowed-out log. But the technology goes back much further. People were already living on islands they could not possibly have reached on foot tens of thousands of years before that canoe was carved. Then the Polynesians did something astonishing. Beginning around 3,000 years ago, they crossed the Pacific Ocean, the largest body of water on Earth. They built double-hulled canoes. They loaded them with food, animals, and entire families. And they sailed thousands of miles by reading nothing more than the stars, the direction of ocean swells, the way birds flew, and the color of clouds near land. No compass, no map, just observations so precise that they still impress modern navigators. They reached Hawaii, Easter Island, New Zealand, every habitable island in the Pacific. Some of those voyages covered more than 2,500 miles of open water with nothing in between. Walking conquered the land. Boats conquered the water. But there was still one problem no one had solved. You can walk 20 miles, but you cannot walk 20 miles carrying a 200-pound animal. You have just killed. For most of human history, the limit on transportation was not distance. It was weight. You could move only what your body could carry. And your body can handle perhaps 40 to 60 pounds before it starts to break down. So humans began to cheat. The first thing they tried was dragging. You kill something large, throw it onto a hide, and drag it back to camp. We know they did this because archaeologists have found where marks on ancient hides that appear only when something heavy has been dragged a long distance. Then someone had a better idea. Travois, 2 long poles tied into a V, with a platform suspended between them. You pull the narrow end. The wide end carries the load. It distributes the weight. And just like that, one person could move 100 pounds or more. Here is what is remarkable about that. The Travois may be one of the oldest ways humans ever moved anything. But it is made of wood and hide, so almost none have survived. The only reason we know it existed is that people were still using it when Europeans arrived in the Americas thousands of years later. But the real breakthrough in moving weight was not something you could build. It was something you could befriend. About 15,000 years ago, humans domesticated dogs, the first animals we partnered with. And one of the first jobs we gave them was pulling weight. In the Arctic, dogs pulled sleds across ice and snow. A single dog can move about 45 pounds. A team of 6 could carry an entire family's camp. But dogs are small. We needed something bigger. About 5,500 years ago, on the steppes of what is now Kazakhstan, humans discovered the horse. We know this thanks to a group called the Butai. Archaeologists found where marks on horses' teeth, produced by bits. Someone had been putting something in the animal's mouth to control it. They found traces of mare's milk in pottery. These were not people who hunted horses. They rode them, milked them, and built their entire lives around them. And the horse changed everything. For 300,000 years, the fastest a human could travel was about 4 miles per hour. At walking speed, on a horse, you could reach 30. In a single generation, the human world became 8 times smaller. Suddenly, you could cover in days what once took weeks. Messages moved faster. Trade routes stretched farther, and warfare changed forever because an army on horseback could reach you before you even knew it was coming. Donkeys carried goods across deserts. Camels crossed the Sahara. Reindeer pulled sleds across Arctic snow. Llamas carried goods through the Andes. Wherever humans appeared, they found an animal that fit their needs and put it to work. But we were not finished. There was one more invention to come, and it took an absurdly long time to appear. Here is something that makes no sense until you think about it. humans crossed every ocean on Earth before anyone invented the wheel. The oldest known wheel appeared in the Ljubljana marshes in Slovenia. It is about 5,200 years old. That is right. Boats date back at least 10,000 years, and probably much further. Horses were domesticated 5,500 years ago. Humans had already sailed to Australia 65,000 years. Before that, the wheel was one of the last major transportation inventions, not the first. And it did not even begin as transportation. The earliest wheels were used for pottery, a spinning disc for shaping clay. At some point, someone looked at that disc and turned it on its side. What if you put something on top of it? The first wheeled vehicles were slow. Their solid wooden wheels were heavy, broke on uneven ground, and became stuck in mud. A horse without a cart was honestly faster than a horse pulling one. But around 2000 BCE, someone developed the spoked wheel, lighter, stronger, and much faster. Now you had war chariots, speed and cargo capacity at the same time. Roads came after that. The first paved road we know of was built in the city of Ur around 4000 BCE. And once you had wheels, roads, and horses working together, you finally had something that looked like a real transportation system. Trade exploded. Empires became possible. You could move armies and supplies hundreds of miles without everything collapsing. The wheel, the horse, and the road, that combination built every civilization you have ever heard of. So here's the full picture. For 300,000 years, humans had nothing but our legs, and we walked across the entire planet. We reached water and figured out how to float. We needed to carry more, so we learned to drag. Then, we built frames. Then we partnered with animals. We discovered the horse, and the world became smaller overnight. We invented the wheel, and it became smaller again. Each of those breakthroughs took thousands of years, and each built on what came before, solving problems that would have seemed impossible to anyone who came earlier. Now you sit in a metal box on a paved road at 70 miles per hour and call it going to work. You fly 3,000 miles across an ocean in 6 hours and get annoyed that the Wi-Fi is slow. You have a machine in your pocket that can summon a car to your exact location in 4 minutes, and you are irritated when it takes 5. Your ancestors walked barefoot for 15,000 miles across continents they could not name to reach places they had never seen, and they did it because they had to, because standing still meant dying. We solved the problem of distance so completely that we forgot it had ever been a problem. Every highway, every airport, every set of railroad tracks on this planet exists because 300,000 years ago, someone looked toward the horizon and started walking. They did not know where they were going. They went anyway. And that is the most human thing there is.